The high-pitched alarm startled Victor Gallagher from his sleep, his heart racing as the emergency lights in his quarters flashed red. The Intergalactic Cultural Exchange Program hadn't mentioned anything about middle-of-the-night drills, but then again, he was the first human stationed at the Zentilar Academy for Xenological Studies. There were bound to be surprises. Warning. Unidentified predatory organism detected in residential Block 7. All students remain in quarters. Security personnel to Block 7 immediately, the automated voice announced in both Standard Galactic and English. Victor fumbled for his translator badge, pinning it to his sleeping shirt as he stumbled to the door. As the Earth liaison and xenobiology instructor, he should probably figure out what was happening. The hallway outside his quarters was in chaos, several alien students huddled against the far wall, their varied physiologies all displaying universal signs of fear. "Professor Gallagher," called out Mika, a four-armed Valaxian with iridescent scales and large golden eyes. "You must stay inside." "There's a dangerous predator loose." Victor rubbed his eyes, still adjusting to the flashing lights. "What kind of predator?" "A Class 3 carnivore from Earth," chittered Drell, a mantis-like sectoid whose antennae were vibrating with anxiety. "It escaped from the xenobiology lab." The security feeds showed it heading this way. The Academy housed various Earth specimens for study purposes, but Victor couldn't think of any that would cause this level of panic. "Did you see what it looked like? Massive fangs, powerful jaws. It stands nearly as tall as you, Professor." Mika's voice trembled as her outer arms wrapped protectively around her torso. Victor frowned. The only Earth animal that fit that description in the Academy was a familiar bark echoed down the corridor, and Victor couldn't help but smile. He stepped fully into the hallway despite the horrified gasps from his students. "Professor, get back." Drell's voice rose to a panicked screech. "It's okay," Victor said calmly, kneeling down as a large, shaggy form bounded around the corner. Zeus, his Irish wolfhound, spotted Victor and accelerated, tongue lolling happily to the side as he raced toward his owner. The alien students pressed themselves further against the wall, some making high-pitched sounds of distress. Zeus skidded to a halt in front of Victor, tail wagging furiously as he pressed his massive head into Victor's chest, nearly knocking him over. "Hey, boy," Victor said, scratching behind the dog's ears. "How'd you get out, huh?" The alien students stared in astonishment as Victor casually interacted with what they perceived as a dangerous predator. Zeus, standing over 30 inches at the shoulder with his shaggy gray coat, did indeed look imposing to those unfamiliar with dogs. "Professor," Mika whispered, her scales shifting to a pale blue of confusion, "you know this creature?" Victor nodded, standing up while keeping a hand on Zeus's head. "This is Zeus. He's my dog, a companion animal from Earth. He's completely harmless." But Drell's antennae twitched in confusion. The data files indicate that canines are descended from apex predators that humans domesticated. They have killing teeth and can run faster than humans. Well, yes, but the conversation was interrupted as a security team rounded the corner, led by Krex, the head of campus security. The burly Dramakian stopped short at the sight of Victor petting the dangerous predator. "Professor Gallagher," Krex rumbled, his rocky skin grinding slightly as he lowered his stun weapon. "You appear to be familiar with this Earth predator," Victor sighed. "This is Zeus, my companion. He's not dangerous. I brought him with me as approved in my cultural exchange agreement." "The specimen was not in your quarters as stipulated," Krex said formally. "It was found in the xenobiology lab, causing considerable distress among the night staff." Victor frowned. "I put him to bed in my quarters before I went to sleep. Someone must have let him out." As if on cue, a small hovering form appeared from around the corner. Pick, a juvenile floatling with translucent skin through which his internal organs were faintly visible, bobbed nervously in the air. I am responsible," Pick admitted, his voice a musical series of tones that the translator rendered into English. I was curious about the Earth companion. The data files said humans keep predators as pets, but I did not believe it was true. I used my access code to enter Professor Gallagher's quarters to observe the creature. And Zeus followed you out when you left, Victor guessed. Pick bobbed in affirmation. It showed no aggression. I became frightened when it began to follow me and I fled to the lab. I did not realize it would cause such alarm. The emergency lights finally stopped flashing and the regular illumination returned to the corridor. The alien students were still pressed against the wall, but their expressions had shifted from terror to fascination as they watched Zeus sit obediently beside Victor. "May I ask a question, Professor?" Mika ventured, her scales now shifting to a curious green. "If this creature is descended from predators that once hunted your species, why do you allow it such proximity? Our data suggests humans have a strong fear response to predatory species." Victor smiled, scratching Zeus behind the ears again. "That's a complicated question with a simple answer. Humans and dogs co-evolved over thousands of years. We bred them to be companions, protectors, and workers. Zeus here is descended from dogs bred to hunt wolves and guard livestock." "You bred a predator to hunt other predators?" Drell's mandibles clicked in astonishment. "Pretty much. The relationship between humans and dogs is one of the oldest interspecies partnerships on Earth. They protect us, we protect them. They're loyal to a fault." As if to demonstrate, Zeus pressed his body against Victor's leg and gazed up at him adoringly. Krex holstered his weapon with a grunt. "The Academy records will need to be updated regarding the Earth canine. It appears our xenobiology department has misclassified this species as a danger to humanoids." The security team dispersed, and the emergency was officially declared over. However, none of the alien students returned to their quarters. Instead, they cautiously moved closer, curiosity overcoming fear. "May we observe the interaction?" asked Mika hesitantly. Victor nodded. "Of course. In fact, this might be a good impromptu lesson in human-animal relationships." He turned to the gathering students. "Would you like to meet Zeus properly?" The response was a mixture of nervous chittering, buzzing, and the various sounds the different species made when uncertain, but none of them backed away. "I'll show you how humans interact with dogs," Victor said, kneeling beside Zeus. "First, you need to understand that dogs read our body language and respond to our emotions. If I'm calm, Zeus stays calm." The alien students watched in fascination as Victor demonstrated basic commands: sit, stay, shake, which Zeus performed perfectly. "Professor," Drell ventured, "all our evolutionary studies suggest that species that once preyed upon each other retain instinctual fear responses. Humans evolved alongside predators that hunted them. How did your species overcome this fear to form bonds with predatory animals?" Victor thought for a moment. "We didn't overcome it so much as redirect it. Humans recognized the value of having predators as allies rather than enemies. The wolves that were friendlier to humans got more food, had better survival rates, and over generations, they changed both physically and behaviorally. A mutual evolutionary advantage," mused Krex, who had remained to observe. "Fascinating. Would it be possible to touch the creature?" Mika asked, her scales flashing with nervous excitement. Victor nodded. "Zeus is very gentle. Just move slowly and let him sniff your hand first." He gestured for Mika to approach. The Valaxian inched forward, extending one slender arm while keeping the other three close to her body. Zeus watched curiously, then stretched his neck to sniff at her scaled hand. After a moment, he gave it a gentle lick, causing Mika to gasp in surprise. "That means he likes you," Victor explained with a smile. "You can pet him now if you want." Tentatively, Mika placed her hand on Zeus's head, her eyes widening as she felt his fur. "It's so soft, not at all what I expected from a predator." One by one, the other students approached. Drell was hesitant, his species being naturally prey-like, but Zeus remained calm and patient. Pick floated close, bobbing just above Zeus's head, seemingly fascinated by the dog's warm breath. "I still don't understand," said Krex, watching the interactions with analytical interest. "Our records indicate that humans exhibit fear responses to large predatory animals like your planet's lions and bears. Why is this different?" "It's about trust and familiarity," Victor explained. "Yes, we fear wild predators because they are unpredictable. But dogs and humans have a special bond. We've evolved together for so long that we can read each other's emotions and intentions. When I look at Zeus, I don't see a predator, I see a friend, a companion who would protect me with his life if necessary." "Protect you?" Drell's antennae twitched. "From what?" Victor smiled. "Well, that's the interesting part. Dogs were originally kept for protection against other predators and hostile humans. Even though modern dogs like Zeus don't need to fulfill that role anymore, the instinct remains. He sees me as part of his pack." The conversation continued into the early hours of the morning, with Victor explaining the complex relationship between humans and dogs. The alien students were particularly fascinated by the concept that humans, despite being considered prey animals by many galactic species due to their relative physical weakness, had managed to form alliances with predators. By the time the Academy's artificial sun began to rise, signaling the start of a new day cycle, Zeus had become the center of attention, enjoying pets and scratches from curious alien hands, claws, and appendages. "I believe," Krex said formally, "that this incident has revealed a significant gap in our understanding of human psychology and societal development. Professor Gallagher, would you be willing to develop a specialized course on human-animal relationships for our xenobiology department?" Victor smiled, watching as Zeus rolled onto his back, allowing Pick to cautiously float down and touch his belly. "I'd be happy to. It seems there's more interest than I expected." "Indeed," Krex rumbled. "The concept of deliberately forming bonds with predatory species is unprecedented in galactic history. Most intelligent species evolved either as predators themselves or developed technology specifically to keep predators at bay. Humans did both," Victor said. "We developed tools and weapons, but we also recognized that some predators could become allies. It shaped our development in unique ways." As the impromptu gathering finally broke up and students returned to their quarters to prepare for the day's classes, Mika lingered behind. "Professor Gallagher," she said, her scales now a calm blue, "I must admit that when I first saw you with the Ka-9, I thought you were either extremely brave or extremely foolish. Now I see it was neither, it was something else entirely." "Trust," Victor said simply. "The foundation of any relationship, whether between members of the same species or different ones." Mika nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps that is why humans have been so successful in forming the Intergalactic Cultural Exchange Program. You are predisposed to seeing potential allies where others see only threats." Victor hadn't considered it that way before, but as he watched Zeus trot happily beside him back to their quarters, he realized she might be right. Humanity's willingness to form bonds with former predators might indeed have prepared them uniquely for interstellar diplomacy. The following days saw a remarkable shift in how the alien students at Zentilar Academy perceived human behavior. What had once seemed like reckless bravado, humans' relative comfort around potentially dangerous creatures, was now understood as a complex evolutionary strategy that had shaped Earth's dominant species. Victor found himself suddenly in high demand. The Academy Dean, a towering arboreal named Silvus with bark like skin and branch like appendages, requested an immediate expansion of Victor's teaching responsibilities. "The incident with your canine companion has sparked unprecedented interest in Earth xenobiology," Silvus explained during a meeting in his office, where the ceiling was unusually high to accommodate his 12-foot height. "Students from all departments are requesting information about human-animal interactions." Victor nodded, Zeus lying contentedly at his feet. Since the Predator incident, as it was now being called, the Academy had officially registered Zeus as an educational asset rather than merely a personal companion. "I'm happy to develop additional curriculum," Victor said. "But I think we need to address the fundamental misunderstanding that led to the panic. Somewhere in your database, Earth animals are being misclassified." Silvis's branches rustled in agreement. "Our xenobiologists have been reviewing the data. It appears that initial assessments of Earth were made primarily through remote observation of wild animals, with particular attention paid to predator-prey dynamics. The concept of domestication was noted but not fully understood. It's more than domestication," Victor explained. "Dogs aren't just tamed wolves. They've co-evolved with us for at least 15,000 years. They can read human facial expressions better than any other non-human species, including primates that are more closely related to us." "Fascinating," Silvis rumbled. "And you believe this relationship influenced human development?" "Absolutely. Some anthropologists think we might not have become the dominant species on Earth without our partnership with dogs. They helped us hunt, guard our settlements, and even provided warmth in cold environments." The dean's photoreceptors, nestled within what looked like knots in his bark-like face, brightened with interest. "This suggests that predator-prey relationships can evolve into symbiotic partnerships under certain conditions, a concept not previously documented in any other known sentient species." By the end of the week, Victor had been asked to prepare a comprehensive series of lectures on human-animal relationships, with particular focus on domesticated predators. Zeus, once feared, had become something of a celebrity on campus, with students often stopping to observe him or, if they'd been properly introduced, to pet him. The most significant change, however, came in how the alien students perceived humans themselves. Previously, humans had been classified as an anomaly physically weaker than many galactic species, but unusually successful at interstellar diplomacy. Now, a new theory was emerging. Humans' evolutionary history of forming alliances with former predators had uniquely prepared them for building cross-species relationships. "It explains so much," Mika said during one of Victor's new seminars. "Humans approach potential threats with caution but not paralyzing fear. You evaluate each entity individually rather than making species-wide judgments." "Well, I wouldn't go that far," Victor cautioned. "Humans still have plenty of prejudices and fears. But yes, our history has given us a certain flexibility in how we categorize other beings." Drell, who had become particularly interested in human psychology, raised a foreleg. "Professor, our historical records show that when humans first made contact with the Galactic Council, many species expected you to react with fear or aggression when confronted with physically imposing aliens. Instead, human diplomats showed remarkable calm." "Is this connected to your experience with predator allies?" Victor considered the question. "I'd never made that connection before, but it makes sense. Humans are used to being around creatures that could theoretically harm us but choose not to. Maybe that did prepare us for meeting larger alien species." The classroom buzzed with excited discussion. Victor had never expected that his dog would become the catalyst for a breakthrough in interspecies understanding, but here they were. After class, Krex approached Victor as he was preparing to take Zeus for his evening walk around the Academy's biodome. "Professor Gallagher," the security chief said formally, "I have been authorized to inform you that the Zentilar Board of Education has approved a significant expansion of the Human Studies program based on recent developments." "That's great news," Victor replied, clipping Zeus's leash to his collar. "Indeed. They are also requesting additional human instructors, specifically those who maintain relationships with domesticated Earth predators. Would you be willing to assist in the selection process?" Victor smiled. "I'd be happy to, and if you're interested, you could join Zeus and me for a walk. It might give you a better understanding of the relationship." Crex's rocky features remained impassive, but there was a hint of curiosity in his gravelly voice. That would be informative. As they walked through the biodome, with its carefully maintained Earth-like section where Zeus could comfortably exercise, Crex observed the interaction between man and dog with keen interest. "The canine constantly looks to you," he noted, "checking your position, your posture, your facial expressions." Victor nodded. "Dogs are incredibly attuned to human emotional states. Zeus can tell if I'm sad, angry, or happy just by subtle changes in my scent and body language. And you trust this creature implicitly. Despite knowing its ancestors were predators that could have seen your ancestors as prey. Trust is earned," Victor explained, watching as Zeus sniffed around a cluster of earth plants. "Zeus has proven his loyalty countless times. When I was selected for the exchange program, I couldn't imagine leaving him behind. He's family." "Family," Crex repeated, testing the concept. "Your species forms familial bonds with non-humans." "With some, yes. Not all animals become family members, but dogs especially tend to integrate into human family structures." Crex was silent for a long moment, watching as Zeus bounded back to Victor's side, tail wagging enthusiastically. "In my culture, we maintain strict boundaries between species. The concept of adopting a predator into one's family unit is revolutionary. Different evolutionary paths lead to different cultural norms," Victor said diplomatically. "Humans evolved in an environment where cooperation with other species provided significant advantages. Yet you did not attempt similar partnerships with all predators. Your planet's lions and tigers remain wild." Victor chuckled. "We tried with some big cats, but they're not pack animals like wolves were. They don't have the same social structures that made dogs compatible with human society. Not all predators were suitable for partnership." As they completed their circuit of the biodome, Crex stopped and turned to face Victor directly. "Professor, I must admit that when you first arrived with your canine, I considered it an unnecessary security risk. I now see that I was operating under a significant misunderstanding of human-animal dynamics." "No offense taken," Victor assured him. "It's a pretty unique relationship that evolved over thousands of years. Without that context, I can see how Zeus might look like a dangerous animal rather than a companion." The security chief nodded solemnly. "The Academy's mission is to further cross-species understanding. It appears we have all learned something valuable from this incident." The next morning, Victor was surprised to find a formal message from the Galactic Council's Cultural Affairs Division waiting in his communication queue. The message referenced recent developments at Zentilar Academy and requested permission to include information about human-canine relationships in the standard briefing package provided to species preparing for first contact with humans. "They work fast," Victor muttered to Zeus, who was enjoying his breakfast in the corner of their quarters. "Apparently, you've become an interstellar ambassador for Earth dogs." Zeus looked up briefly, tail thumping against the floor before returning to his food. Victor was still composing his response when his door chime sounded. Opening it, he found Pick hovering anxiously in the corridor. "Professor Gallagher," the young floatling began, his translucent body pulsing with nervous energy, "I wish to formally apologize again for my unauthorized entry to your quarters and the subsequent incident with Zeus." "It's all right, Pick," Victor assured him. "No harm done. In fact, it's turned into quite a valuable learning opportunity for everyone." "Yes, that is partly why I have come," Pick continued, bobbing slightly higher in what Victor had learned was an expression of hopeful anticipation. "The Xenobiology Club is organizing a special symposium on interspecies relationships, inspired by you and Zeus. We would be honored if you would both attend as the featured presenters." Victor smiled. "We'd be happy to participate. When is it scheduled?" 3 days from now, in the main auditorium. The dean has approved making it a campus-wide event." Pick's internal organs glowed with excitement. Several officials from the Galactic Council's Educational Division will also be attending. Sounds like this has grown beyond a simple student club meeting, Victor observed. Pick bobbed in agreement. The incident has prompted significant reevaluation of human psychological profiles throughout the academic community. Your species was previously categorized as paradoxically fearless despite physical vulnerabilities. Now, there is discussion of reclassifying humans as evolutionarily predisposed to cross-species alliance formation. Victor couldn't help laughing. That's quite a mouthful. Is it inaccurate? Pick inquired, his tone genuinely curious. No, not inaccurate, just very academic. Most humans don't think about our relationship with dogs in such formal terms. It's more intuitive, Pick's body pulsed thoughtfully. Intuitive interspecies bonding, another uniquely human trait, perhaps. I look forward to exploring this concept further at the symposium. After Pick departed, Victor looked down at Zeus, who had finished his breakfast and was now sitting attentively at his feet. Well, boy, looks like we've accidentally sparked an interstellar revelation about human psychology. Not bad for your first month in space, huh? Zeus's tail thumped happily against the floor. The symposium exceeded all expectations. The main auditorium, designed to accommodate multiple species with vastly different physiological needs, was filled to capacity. Representatives from every department at the Academy were present, along with the promised delegation from the Galactic Council. Victor stood on the stage with Zeus sitting calmly beside him, facing an audience more diverse than he had ever addressed. Species from gas giants, aquatic worlds, high-gravity planets, and environments humans could barely comprehend were all united in their fascination with the relationship between a man and his dog. The bond between humans and dogs, Victor explained, represents one of the oldest and most successful cross-species partnerships in Earth's history. What began as a tentative alliance between two predator species competing for the same prey evolved into a deep symbiotic relationship that fundamentally altered both species. The audience listened with rapt attention as Victor detailed the evolutionary journey from wolves to domestic dogs, and how the partnership had benefited both species. Humans provided dogs with food, shelter, and protection from competing predators. Dogs provided humans with hunting assistance, protection from threats, and eventually, companionship. Over thousands of generations, dogs evolved to read human emotions and respond to our needs in ways no other species can match. To demonstrate, Victor ran through a series of exercises with Zeus, showing how the dog responded to subtle cues and commands. The audience reacted with a mixture of sounds that the translator rendered as gasps, murmurs, and exclamations of surprise. But perhaps the most significant aspect of this relationship, Victor continued, is how it may have predisposed humans to seek alliances rather than conflict when encountering new species. Our evolutionary success was partly built on turning potential competitors into partners. A counselor from the Galactic delegation, a tall, crystalline being known as Prismat, rose to ask a question. Professor Gallagher, given this perspective, how would you characterize humanity's approach to discovering intelligent alien life? Was your species' relatively calm reaction to first contact influenced by this evolutionary history? Victor considered the question carefully. I believe it was a factor, yes. Humans have a long history of benefiting from relationships with species very different from ourselves. While there was certainly fear and uncertainty when we first made contact with alien life, there was also a cultural predisposition to look for common ground rather than assume hostility. The discussion continued for hours, with questions ranging from the practical aspects of caring for a dog to philosophical inquiries about how the human-canine bond had influenced Earth's literature, art, and ethics. By the end of the symposium, it was clear that a fundamental shift had occurred in how the galactic community viewed human psychology. What had begun as a simple misunderstanding about a dog had evolved into a deeper appreciation for humanity's unique evolutionary path. As Victor and Zeus left the stage to enthusiastic applause, expressed in various species-specific ways, Dean Silvas approached them. "Professor Gallagher," the towering arboreal said, his voice a deep rumble. "The council representatives have expressed interest in establishing a permanent exhibit on human-animal relationships at the Galactic Cultural Center on Centralis Prime. They believe it provides crucial context for understanding human diplomatic approaches." Victor nodded, scratching Zeus behind the ears. "I'd be happy to contribute materials and research. It's an important part of our history that I think has been overlooked in interspecies relations." "Indeed," Silvas agreed. "And they have specifically requested that you and Zeus consider making a personal appearance at the exhibit's opening. It seems your canine companion has become something of a cultural ambassador." Zeus, sensing he was being discussed, looked up with bright eyes and wagging tail. "I think he'd be up for that," Victor said with a smile. "He's always enjoyed meeting new people regardless of species." In the months that followed, the predator paradox, as it became known in academic circles, became a significant field of study. Victor found himself at the center of a new interdisciplinary approach to understanding human psychology and social development. Zeus, once feared as a dangerous predator, became a beloved fixture at the academy. Students would often seek him out during study breaks, finding his friendly presence comforting regardless of their own species' evolutionary background. Perhaps most significantly, the Galactic Council revised its first contact protocols for newly discovered intelligent species. The protocols now included an assessment of whether the species had formed partnerships with predators or other potentially threatening organisms in their evolutionary history, a predictor, they had determined, of how the species might approach interstellar relations. One evening, nearly a year after the incident, Victor sat in the biodome with Zeus, watching the artificial sunset. Mika, who had become a close friend and research collaborator, joined them. "I've been accepted to the Earth Exchange program," she announced, her scales shimmering with excitement. "I'll be studying at Harvard University next Earth year." "That's fantastic news," Victor said warmly. "You'll love Earth. And Cambridge is a great place for dogs. You'll see humans walking all kinds of breeds there." Mika's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. "That's actually part of why I applied. I want to understand this aspect of human culture firsthand. Before meeting Zeus, I couldn't comprehend why any sentient species would willingly share their living space with a predator. Now, I find I'm curious about experiencing it myself." Victor smiled. "Are you saying you might want to get a dog of your own?" "Perhaps," Mika admitted. "My species is physiologically compatible with Earth environments, and preliminary research suggests we might form similar bonds with Earth animals given time and proper introduction." Zeus, as if understanding he was being discussed, moved to place his head on Mika's lap, a gesture that would have terrified her a year ago but now brought a shimmer of happy colors to her scales as she gently stroked his fur. "From feared predator to desired companion," Victor mused. "It's been quite a journey. For all of us," Mika agreed. "The Academy has never been the same since that night when the dangerous Earth predator escaped. In seeking to understand your relationship with Zeus, we've gained insight not just into human psychology, but into our own preconceptions and fears." As the artificial stars began to appear in the biodome's simulated sky, Victor reflected on how a simple misunderstanding had led to such profound changes in interspecies understanding. Zeus, curled contentedly between his human and his alien friend, seemed perfectly at ease, a living bridge between worlds that had once seemed impossibly distant. In the grand tapestry of galactic history, the relationship between humans and dogs might seem like a small thread. But as Victor had discovered, Sometimes the smallest threads could connect the most disparate parts of the pattern, creating something stronger and more beautiful than either could achieve alone. And as representatives from 100 worlds now understood, watching a human walk with a wolfhound revealed more about humanity's place in the cosmos than any academic treaty or diplomatic mission ever could.